Hello everyone and welcome back to another Figurehead Reviews video. And today we are going to finally take a look at the Marvel Legends Haslab Sentinel. I'm skipping the unboxing. Unfortunately the box just doesn't fit on my review station, the Sentinel barely does, so I just wanted to jump right in and start looking at the figure and his accessories. We are not going to look at the additional figures, the Bastion and the Sentinel Prime figures. Maybe that'll be a separate review. Today I just want to focus on the Sentinel and give you my overall thoughts on this figure. So with that being said, let's just go ahead and jump in first and take a look at the accessories that comes with the Sentinel, and then we'll look at the figure itself. And starting things off, we do have the 4 total head sculpts that you're going to get with this figure, starting on the left with the Master Mold head, then the Tri-Sentinel head, the battle damaged one, and then of course we get just the regular head sculpt. And you can really see the size difference here between the Master Mold Tri-Sentinel and then the regular heads, and I kind of wanted to show that. I'll show what they look like on the body here in a moment, but let's go ahead and start first here. We'll take a look at the regular head that it comes with. So this is going to be the head that will come on the Sentinel when you first get him. It is just the regular sculpt. We don't have anything special about it other than just the actual detail in it. And it is a really cool looking sculpt there. You get some wiring and things like that sculpted in. Minimal paint on the wiring. At least they did some paint on it. I'm not sure if maybe a wash or something would have looked good there. You can see like the grill there behind the mouthpiece. And the eyes, so the eyes glow. You've probably seen that by now. Here's a better look at that lens. You get kind of a little star shape to that lens to help with that glowing effect, I'm sure. But a pretty standard looking head sculpt, and it looks really good. Contrary to what I originally thought, I thought that these were molded in like a metallic color. I'm pretty sure that these are actually painted. Only reason I say that is during my disassembly video, when taking them apart, there were some areas I could tell where there was paint, and then other parts where I could tell that it was like this, where it was matte. And granted, these look like different pieces, but I think this might all be painted. So this, I'm sure, is molded though in that color. But and then on the inside, you can see some sculpted detail, which is really cool. They didn't have to do that because for the most part, you're never going to see that unless the head is off. But all the same, very, very neat. So that is the first sculpt. Looking now at the battle damaged head, so you can see the variation they did. I love the scoring around this damaged eye, and then looking inside of that damaged eye, very cool looking. Even a little bit of paint detail there just to show off some of the damage in it. But I really like the blast paint that they did around it. You can see we got 3 scratches there, it looks like, so that could be very much a Wolverine strike. And the broken jaw is really cool, so the wiring hanging down, I think that is well done. And I kind of like the notion like this side of the face took the brunt of the beating, whereas this side of the face is a little bit more minimal. But we still can see we get just sort of like the punch marks there, the dents around all these pieces, the cracks. Looks like you got a little misaligned on the paint there. That's actually kind of a bummer. And then at the top, we get this big gash here exposing more wiring. And it looks again like the paint slightly misaligned on this one. How far in? They painted all the way down on this little flap. They painted all the way down in there. That's pretty cool looking. More damage throughout though, and then we get that same sculpt work there just on the sides there in the back. You don't obviously get it up at this part. One thing you will notice too, looking in there, you only have one working eye, which we will show the light up effect here shortly, but I really like that battle damaged head. I think that is pretty cool looking, and I love just the option to be able to display that. Now looking at the Tri-Sentinel head. So this one is kind of controversial in a way because the Tri-Sentinel technically had, I believe it was 6 arms as well. So it's a little odd to have the Tri-Sentinel head without having all the extra arms. But I still think it's cool just as an option because if you're looking at it head on, you can't see the other faces. So it just gives you the option to have like this one with the blaster looking like it's ready to shoot out of his mouth. Switch it over to this one, which is more of just a regular face paint. You don't even have, or face sculpt, you don't even have like the grill or anything there, just a bunch of wires for the mouth. And then this one with the gold on it. So I think that is still well done, and I think it's a pretty cool inclusion. We don't get any of that sculpt work on the inside though, so it's just going to be the regular, the port there. But I don't know, I do like it. This is probably my favorite out of the three because I like the idea that he's like charging up a blast to shoot. So I thought about displaying this, but a lot of my Sentinel display I think is going to be like at an angle. So I don't really like the idea of a additional head being shown there. And then lastly, we have Master Mold. And man, this is a big head. I got to hold it further away. The Master Mold head, very cool looking. I know a lot of people were happy to get this one, especially if you army built the smaller Sentinels, whether they be the Days of Future Past one, the Marvel Universe ones, or of course the old Build-A-Figure, the Toy Biz one, because getting an oversized Sentinel that you could use as a Master Mold for those is really cool. You could just add that to your army, and there you go. But really hefty weight to it, but we get the lines and things like that there in purple. I believe in the animated series they were gold, so this is going to be more comic accurate, but really well done. And taking a look at the face there, a lot of cool sculpted details. Not a whole lot of paint going on. You get the paint around the eyes and such, and I assume the eyes are going to have that same star pattern. Yep, so that is a really nice looking head sculpt though, and I want to show what they look like though, because there is a big size difference to having the Master Mold head compared to the standard head there. You can definitely see that size difference. But before we look at those head sculpts on the Sentinel, we still have the battle damaged hand to look at here, as well as the tentacles. But starting with the hand, so I love that middle piece there, how that cover is broken, and you can just see a hint of the, well, it's a blaster and the part that the tentacle comes out of, but I love that you can see the hint of it underneath there, and we get the damage on it there. The thumb, we get some damage on the end of it, where we see essentially what would be the bones of the Sentinel sticking out. And then on the fingers, same thing, broken here at this joint, and then we can see that one kind of ripped apart, this one halfway ripped. Pinky relatively untouched there, actually. I do wish that we had some articulation in these hands. I don't see any functional reason why we can't have articulation. You know, on these three fingers right there, really the pinky could have been fully articulated, and realistically I don't see why the thumb couldn't have been articulated either. So that is kind of a bummer in my opinion that it's stuck like this, because it would have looked kind of cool. I don't know if you could have moved them around. That's just my opinion. In addition, I wish there was some damage here. You know, so the fingers took a big hit, but this palm piece, or rather the back of the hand, completely intact. So having that extra damage on this piece would have been really cool, and would have made up for the lack of articulation if it was at least a completely battle damaged hand. I suppose I get it. You might be trying to show the battle damage this way, but if you had damage on here, it might make more sense. If you were, say, doing a pose where he was reaching for like Wolverine or something, it might have looked cool. I don't know. That's just my thought, is I just wish there was damage on here and maybe some articulation. And that brings us to the last of his accessories, being this tentacle here, which I can't even show fully on my camera setup here. But needless to say, it's a good size. I think they really did a good job with this. And I think everybody is very happy that it is made with a bendy wire in it. Now, this is going to port into one of the good hands, but you can see you'll have that port in there, and that will just go in, and it honestly is a very firm fit, which is going to be great because you're going to end up putting figures like that, or figures on this thing. So to kind of showcase that, I already had a couple figures pre-posed here with some of the bendy wire wrapping around, so you can see that you can do that without too much issue, and it really is rigid. It'll hold its place. I've had Jubilee here wrapped up for quite some time and sitting in the hand of the Sentinel beforehand, and she has not drooped or sagged or anything like that. So very cool that you can get it to go around. I also got Colossus here, sort of the idea that this one's been severed from a Sentinel, but Colossus is still kind of fighting to get it off of him. But you can see that the posability on these wires is pretty solid. So very happy with that. You do only get 2 of these in a set. Obviously, I just showed that I had 3, so spoiler alert, I may have more than 1 Sentinel. So I'm going to do a display showcase here once I get this review done and show what my setup looks like. And here is the Sentinel with the Master Mold head, and you can see what I was talking about with it looking a bit oversized, but I think that works still, though, with the figure, and I think it'll look really good, especially with, like, the baths and stuff from pictures that I've seen. And here it is with the Tri-Sentinel head on there, so still a bit oversized, but it doesn't look too bad, and like I said, I really like the looks of the Sentinel with this head on there. From straight on, I think it looks great, but like I was saying, if you're doing it from the side, I just don't like the idea of the actual Tri-Sentinel part. I wish we had like some sort of face cover plates that you could put over the side to block the other 2. And for the last of the 3 additional head sculpts, here is the battle damaged head, and you can see we're back more in scale there as far as the head to body ratio. Still looks really good though. Like I said, I'm really glad they did the battle damaged head. I think it looks really good on this figure. And now to get a better look at the actual Sentinel itself, this is going to be really tricky with my setup, so I don't have the best hand placement for things, but very cool sculpting detail on different parts of this body. So you can see the shoulder pad here as we move it out. You have some sculpted detail there at the shoulder, and that is a separate piece that rotates independently of the shoulder. I love the details here around the chest. I realize my hand is probably in the way, but we get all sorts of sculpted details there just throughout the figure, which is really cool, in my opinion. I think the scuff work here might have been from when I was taking this figure apart. This is the one that I did the leg disassembly on, so I think these scuffs are probably when I had it laying down on the table. But just looking at all of these details, all the little line work that we get, really cool. I don't know, it's very neat looking. Going to the arms, man, this is a really awkward review. We can see some really cool bicep work here as far as the paneling and things like that. This piece is like wiggly. I was moving the arm and stuff around. I thought maybe it was to facilitate making the arm move and easier and things like that, but it just seems to be a separate plate. So my guess is maybe one of the covers to hold the screws of the bicep in, similar to what we saw, and then similar to what we saw on the leg. Sorry, I do that a lot. I start a thought and I don't finish it. The back plate here, we have some really cool sculpted detail as well, and this is actually removable, so that way you can get access to the battery cover to put the batteries in for the light up feature, which we'll look at. But we get these little tiny thrusters on the back of this. I think that's kind of funny because they are so tiny. It kind of works for the design and the sculpt work and everything, but it's kind of funny to think that the Sentinel would be propelled with these. I know he's got the foot thrusters too, though. Scroll down a little bit here, and I really like the design on the back here. We get sort of the spinal column with these 2 large conduits here running down, and then just all the loose wires again. And then we'll spin it back around, and you can see the same thing with sort of the sculpted abs there, the big conduits again, and then the additional wiring. I think it looks really good. I wish there was more paint in it, but it's still a good look overall. And a quick readjustment here, just so we could get a better look at the arm. Not a whole lot of paint variation, or rather color variation, from just the pinks and the purples. You get a little bit of silver painted here and here, but we get some pretty cool sculpted details there on the forearm in terms of just some more of these just symbols. We do have like these little grills down here that has some paint on it. And then bring the camera down. Now we can get a better look at the hand here. So the same back piece that we saw there on the battle damaged hand, but of course with this one we do get the full articulation. There we go. So just to showcase that a little bit more, we do have, of course, the port that we already saw, and we do get some sculpted detail there, wires and cables and things like that. Again, with minimal paint though, so we get just the red wire. And we get more of the wiring sculpted into the thighs here. Minimal paint again, just like what we saw up here. Very light paint with the wiring. Still cool looking though. You do get a soft piece here on the thigh, so that is not a hard plastic. If you watch my disassembly video, you saw how I removed that. We get a little bit of gray paneling underneath there, and then coming down the rest of the leg, we just see some more big panel lines and things like that. This is a separate piece. This is a separate piece. And then these pieces are going to be put together. These are the plates that I was trying to get off during my disassembly video to try and get access to the knee joint, and unfortunately I just couldn't. And then looking down here at the feet, we do have this little piece here that does move. Well, I'll show it during the articulation. And then we get some good sculpted detail there. And then looking at the bottom of the feet, if we can. Now, I put rubber bumpers on this guy because he was sliding around a lot. But you get some sculpted detail that's really cool there on the bottom of the feet. I love that. And they even painted it. So the rubber bumpers were necessary because he kept slipping. I mean, that is my biggest gripe on this guy, is he was slipping around on flat surfaces, smooth surfaces. So I went and got bumpers for him. And now on to probably the most difficult segment for me to record, the articulation. So looking here at the head, so he can turn side to side or all the way around with this head sculpt. Not really much up and down, no side to side. However, the neck joint itself also can rotate around. So if we take the head off, so when you take the head off, you can see that the actual neck can turn as well, so you can see the position of that has changed a bit. That is really only going to be necessary because of this bulb here. That is how the lights shine through for the eyes. So if you have the head turned, but you don't have this piece turned, only one of the eyes is going to light up. So even though you can rotate it around, you're going to want to make sure that the light portion is aligned as well. Shoulders, so you have arms that can come up right about to there, and then because this is attached behind the shoulder, you do get rotation full around. Man, there we go. And it does kind of get stuck in some spots, but you get plenty of shoulder rotation. I know I'm blocking part of the camera. You do have a bicep swivel underneath here. We do have an elbow joint. It is a double jointed elbow, but you can only get about that far. You do have a wrist rotation as well as a hinge on there. And then the hands are going to be individually articulated fingers. So you do have the joint here on the thumb to be able to get you that opposable thumb, as well as two joints here on the knuckles. And then each of these fingers are going to be articulated on each knuckle as well. And you do even have rotation on them, which is, I mean, kind of weird, but still really cool. You know, have him snapping his fingers, things like that. So a lot of good articulation there on the hands. Moving down to the torso here. So we do have his articulation here at the diaphragm, which gets you, well, so that's the actual waist there that gets you a little bit forward and back. But this way you can get a little side to side. It's honestly very stiff, so let me pull it down real quick and I'll show you how much range we have. So that's not even full range. I think I could go a little bit further, but more than I think most people are going to need to do. I mean, he's almost looking completely that way while the legs are facing forward. So you do have a good amount of range. It is a very stiff joint, so that's why I had to pull it down to move it, because it was very difficult to move. So good range there. And then you do have, as I mentioned before, that waist articulation that gets you a little bit down and a little bit back. Nice little crunch, but if it were a little bit deeper, that'd be cool. But at the same time, I don't know how well the weight would be supported if you went too much lower. And now moving down to really the most controversial aspect of his articulation, the hips and knees. So the hips actually have very good range of motion in terms of side to side, kicking forward. You get a pretty good amount there. Yep, not too bad. Going back, not a whole lot. And then you do have a swivel. Man, this is really complicated to show you guys, but he does have a swivel there at the thigh. My biggest gripe about the hips, as I pointed out, I did put rubber feet on this guy because any smooth surface I put him on, if I had the legs spread apart at all, they would just continue to slowly slip. So highly recommend doing some sort of rubber bumpers like I did. Put a thing of hot glue around the base of the feet. Do something, because these are unfortunately still very loose at the hips, and it just doesn't support the weight. Now, let me reposition here. The knees, as I showed in my other video, my knees are strong now because I did reinforce them with those washers, but you do have the double jointed knees. And then looking at the ankle, you do get a tiny little bit of rocker and motion. I'm realizing that's not the best angle. There we go. Little bit of motion, and then you do get some forward and backwards, and that piece does move with it as well. And real quick, just to show the articulation in the head for the Master Mold head, you do actually get more side to side, up and down, and it does turn a lot easier than the regular Sentinel head. So that is really cool that you do get more movement, and that's really just due to how big it is and how much room you have underneath the neck versus the standard head, which of course sits much lower and just doesn't really have that much wiggle room on it. The Tri-Sentinel head, however, does not have as much articulation. You get a little bit down, but not a ton, and then you can't really get much side to side because each of the heads are going to have a little bit of a chin to it, which means it's hitting the sides on each of them. So the Master Mold head is definitely the most articulated head sculpt for this figure. And before we wrap things up, I figured I'd show the light up feature as well. So we got the batteries installed. Going to press the chest piece down once. You're going to get a glow here at the chest, and then it does shine through with the eyes. So we got green, hit it again. We're going to do kind of a yellow to red there, which I think that actually is probably my favorite. Hit it again. We have almost a white, and then fades back to a yellow. And back to green there. So that's just a simple push. If you let this run, it'll go out in a couple of seconds. It wasn't very long. If we hold this down for about 2 seconds, you'll get this flashing, and you can see the eyes pulsing, the chest pulsing. That is a really good one for like your battle damaged head, to be able to get that to just look cool for maybe a still shot, or not a still shot, but a brief video. But then if we hold it down again, past the blinking, about 3 seconds, there we go. So then we're going to get what I call photo mode. So this is going to pulse between, I think it was 3 different colors, and they are going to stay on for a pretty long time. It's something in the neighborhood of about 10 minutes a color, I think it might have been. I don't know if it was quite that long, but it's going to be on for a long time. And one of the colors we actually get is not one that we see through the regular scrolling. You actually get a blue on here. So I'm going to let this go through the different colors real quick, just so you can see it. So of course we start off with red. And then after red, you're going to have purple displayed, and it was about a 10-minute mode for the whole thing. I just timed it. It was about 3 minutes to switch colors. So 3 minutes on red, and then we get purple, which was not one of the colors that we saw when scrolling through. So this is actually one of the bonus colors, and it does blue as well. So I didn't even really realize that with this photo mode, it's going to be red, purple, and blue. Which is kind of weird that we don't get yellow or green in it, though. Like, I would have been okay with that. But about 3 minutes again, we'll see what the blue looks like. And then finally, we do have the blue. And like I said, I was wrong on the timing. I said it was about 10 minutes a color. It's actually about 10 minutes for the whole thing. So you get 3 minutes a color. So rather, it's 9 minutes for the photo mode. But you're going to get the red, the purple, and the blue. And then just the regular single press will allow you to get the shorter times, but will allow you to get the yellow and green in addition to the other colors. I think it would have been cool if it allowed all colors in all modes. I just think that would have been kind of neat. Real quick, we're just going to do some quick head swaps so that you can see what each of the heads look like here. We're not going to go through all the colors, but I'll just turn on the colors so you can see what the eyes look like on the other ones. And here is that battle-damaged head. So just doing a single press here. Let's see it with red. I think it looks better with red. There we go. Very cool looking. I love that the one eye doesn't light up. I think that really helps sell the battle-damaged portion. And we might as well see what it looks like with the flicker. Yeah, very cool. I kind of wish that the eye flickered as long as the chest piece. The chest piece is still glowing right now for that battle-damage mode. I think that would have been kind of cool if the whole mode itself, if it lasted longer, to be honest. And then we have the Tri-Sentinel head with their glowing eyes. Very cool looking. Let me see if I can rotate the head around for you. There's that one. And then there's that one. So really cool on the Tri-Sentinel head as well. And then finally we have Master Mold with his glowing eyes. And I actually think that for Master Mold, personally, I think the yellow looks best. I don't know why, but I just really like that look. But very, very cool looking that we get the glowing eyes for all the heads. And that is going to do it for this video, everyone. I know I skipped a couple of things. I didn't talk about like his height, which is about 26 inches tall. I didn't really do a lot of comparisons because, honestly, I don't have other Sentinels to compare him with. If you wanted to see how he looks next to a 6-inch figure, here you go. This is just a quick shot of him with that. It's an awesome figure. I love the design. I love the sculpt. But my criticism is really just going to be echoed with everyone else's criticisms, which really is the articulation from the waist down. The hips are too loose. The knees are too loose. And I wish we had a bit more of... bit more articulation in the ankles. Those are probably my biggest 3 gripes. I'm happy that I was able to do something like tightening the screws and getting the knees better. Frustrating that you have to do that. Yes, I agree. But really the hips are what get me, and the fact that I have to put the rubber bumpers on the bottom of his feet to get him to stand up on a shelf. Those are probably my biggest gripes there. But otherwise, the figure looks really good. The articulation is decent in terms of the range and the functionality. The tentacles we got look good. The head sculpts look good. So overall, I am pleased with it. But I'm hoping that they take the criticisms that we've been giving them and apply that to the Galactus Build-A-Figure and do things to improve upon it, because I think that's really what we need. But that is it, everyone. I know this has been a long delayed video, and honestly, I can already tell as I shot this, it's going to be a choppy video. It's going to be weird. It was really hard to do this review, in all honesty. I just don't have the setup for it, so I still wanted to get something out there. But stay tuned. I am going to do a display setup here, and you're going to see some more poses and things like that once I get the Sentinels actually on display with my figures, and I think you guys are going to like that video. That will be coming soon. I got about half of my display set up already. Now that I'm done with this video, I can get this Sentinel set up on it, so I think it'll look good. So make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you like it, subscribe for more content like this, and certainly stick around because my next video, most likely, is going to be that Sentinel display setup video. Thanks everyone for watching the video. Have a great day.